Yeah. Yep. Yep. What a bop. Boy, this really came together well. I'm into it. Something to celebrate, right? You should be drinking coffee. You should be a bourbon. Yes. Hey, welcome to the Iron Ore Podcast. My name is Adam Jaros. I'm the founder of Righteous Co. here, and this is an exciting time to just be alive with everything that is going on. So this is episode 1. Welcome to it. This has been a long time coming, and I have been in pursuit of perfection with this podcast, and it has kind of driven me to the point of going a little crazy with it. So we're done. There's no more games being played. This is episode number 1, and we have a great episode in store for you. We have Michael McGreevy. He's an amazing husband, father, executive coach, entrepreneur, but most importantly, man of God on today. You're going to love this episode. It's just a great conversation with Michael. He is just a great conversationalist to begin with, but he's got a lot of life lessons that I think you're going to really love. He's a great storyteller, and I can't wait to dig into that. And just before we do, I just want to say a few words about what this podcast is. And really what this is this is not perfect. I'm not going to be pursuing perfection with this. We're going to get better every day at this. And I want you along for the journey, because this is, for people who are tuning in here, you might know me from ministry. I'm a youth minister, been so for 10 years, been doing ministry work for 20 years. I'm an entrepreneur here with Righteous Co. This is currently, as I say this is my side hustle, bootstrapping my way through. And I'm here to really highlight a few things, right? The tagline is to help leaders dream, do, and be righteous. Man, I love it. I love seeing people alive. That's what I love seeing. And that's what this is all about, is to help you get to a place where you can hear from some great people who are on the road to pursuing greatness in the way that they were created. There is no shying away from the fact that this is a faithful venture. Okay, so if you're tuning in here and you're like, what is this all about? Well, first of all, everything that we do here centers on our relationship with God. That is an important, and it is the most important part of what this is, because everything that we are drawing forward in this Righteous Co name really starts there. And boy, life is so fulfilling when you have that being led by the Holy Spirit. And there's no shying away from who we are and what we are. My family and I, we're Catholics through and through, but hopefully this is a ecumenical type of a venture. So if you're sitting here thinking like, well, I can't listen to a Catholic, hey, you know what? Come on board. I think that there's a few things that we can all share in together. If you're an atheist and you're like, I don't care about this Christian stuff, hey, I'm glad that you're here too. It's okay. Welcome. We're going to talk about productivity. We're going to talk about the faith. We're going to talk about priorities. We're going to talk about just getting stuff done, because, man, the world needs people who are going to get up and get stuff done, and who really appreciate excellence, who really appreciate wanting to go and make a difference. And, wow, there's a lot to do and a lot to talk about. But that's what we're even here to get started with. So I hope that you subscribe. I hope that you hit that notification. Tell people about this, because this is kind of a breakout thing right here with episode number 1. We're breaking out of a little shell to get really moving, to move, right? We're going to grow. And this is where we're starting from. Honestly, I think I have like 7 subscribers right now. I hope that in like 10 years I can say, wow, we're at 10 subscribers now. Look how far we've come. So if it's just my mom who's going to follow along here and listen, hey, Awesome. But I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of value here for people just like you, and I would love for you to follow along and join in this journey. So, without any further hesitation, I'm going to give you my conversation with the great Michael McGreevy. Michael, thank you for joining today on the Iron Ore podcast. You're the number one. You're the first guy, the first interview. This is exciting. I'm glad that you're here. Welcome.
Yes, I'm honored, man. The first one on the Iron Ore podcast. I mean,
Yes.
I feel very special. Thanks, Adam, for having me.
Oh, it's great having you. So you've been a just a man of influence in my own life, just as a coach, as a husband, as a father. You've taught me a lot. Just even going through our conversations to going through the Be Brave mastermind group. You really taught me a lot in life and living and leadership. But I'm glad to be able to bring you on here to pick your brain and just maybe tackle some of the questions that really kind of arise on a person's heart, you know. But before we even get into that, I'd love maybe just to have you tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, how would you describe yourself? Like, how would you introduce yourself to anybody stepping into this?
Yeah, no, that's funny. It's probably different for different people. I think I'll always be in pursuit of trying to understand who I am and what my role in this world is.
Mm,
So I don't have some kind of line that I put out there for everyone. But that being said, I think my first role is a son, and that's in respect to my faith. I have a heavenly Father that I put my faith and my trust in. And then my next most important role is as a husband, and that's in caring for, pursuing, loving, understanding, listening to my wife. And yeah, we're the team in life that everything that we do flows from that relationship there. And then of course our kids, we have three kids. They're 8, 6, and 4. Just a little bit ahead of you, Adam, as an age. But yeah, those 4 people are the most important people in my life. And I really just enjoy being with them. Not every second. There's a lot of hard moments too, but I think if I had to describe myself, that is me, is a family man, someone who really enjoys spending time with his family, making memories with his family. I think everything
mm,
I do around my family is there to serve the vision that I have for my family. So
mm,
yeah, I'm passionate about what I do professionally. I'm an executive coach, and I love helping people move forward and find clarity and
mhm,
find confidence to pursue who they were meant to be and to step into the role that they were meant to have in this world. I care deeply about that, but more importantly, that work serves what I want to do with my family,
mm.
and provides for it financially, and also provides the flexibility that allows me to really be fully present with them.
Wow. And that's an amazing intro, right? I mean, talking about priorities, I just finished up a series talking about priorities, and that's been on my mind as a husband and a father of how am I actually putting this together, and what's a way that I can actually reflect on this and say, am I doing this right? Do I have my priorities straight? How do you keep your priorities straight when you're spending time working, you're spending time with your family, you're trying to balance all of that, you're putting your prayer time together. How do you make your pieces fit?
Hmm. They don't fit, Adam. I think I've studied this stuff a lot, and I've learned from a lot of people who have this dialed in their life. Like, this is the morning routine I have, and it's
Mm,
on the clock. I switch it at this time, and I go into this mode, and then at this time I go into that mode. And I don't know anyone that has all that dialed in. And I think there's a bit of a freedom in that. Um, I work on that every day, to be honest, Adam, and every day I fail at least at one thing or a couple things in terms of my routine. But what I don't want to fail at is keeping those things that are most important to me as the priority, as an overall mission in my life. Now,
Mm.
how I live that out every day and all the details and the timing of that, yeah, I have good days and bad days with that. But I do ask myself that question every morning of, is my wife getting my best? If I say that she's the most important person in this whole thing, is she feeling that? Like if I were to ask her that, would she say she feels that way based on my actions and how I live my life?
Mm.
Those are tough things to ask your wife or to even explore that question. But because they can be revealing and they can be humiliating at times because I do drop the ball. And then same thing with my kids. Like I'm constantly asking that because there is a pull no matter what. When you're with your kids, when you're with your family, there's a pull of that question of am I doing enough with my business?
Mm.
Like am I investing enough with that? And then when I'm got my head buried in my work and my tasks, I'm asking that same question too. It's am am I should I be with my family right now? Am I putting too much work here? And I think if you're asking those questions, then you're in a good spot. As a father, as a husband, as someone who's a professional, if you're aware of that and you're thinking about that and you're asking those questions and you're working on getting better,
Mm.
you are making that a priority. It's when you you come up with this dialed in routine and you put a check mark on it and say, see, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do everywhere. I'm just going to blindly follow this routine. Because I think something like this, in terms of relationships, when you're thinking about relationships, they're ebbing and flowing on a daily basis. And so you can't necessarily put a system together that will last through every season of life. It
Mm.
just doesn't work that way. It's just not smooth in that manner. So I try to ask those bigger questions of, am I living out what I say is important to me?
Mm.
And I don't always do it.
Well, it makes two of us. And it, I feel like I'm having a lot of these conversations lately with just how do we get this right? And you said if you're making the time for the right questions, if you're asking the right questions, then you're in the right ballpark. How do you make the time to be able to sit down and reflect on if you're doing the right thing? How do you keep yourself from being over busy or stuck in that that grind to the point where it just kind of consumes us? So how do you take a step back from that and then reflect on where you're
Mm.
at in life?
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard to do. I think it does start with a mindset, and it
Mm.
starts with um, resisting the temptation to be passive in just the situation that you're in. Because let's be
Mm.
honest, being a husband, a father, and trying to provide for your family all at the same time and be present emotionally too, that's really tough. Like that's if we're not careful as fathers, we can get in that place of feeling like a victim, like we're just being pulled in so many directions. How could I possibly do this well? But that's where the mindset piece of this is so important. Instead of feeling like a victim, instead of giving into that perspective of, what am I supposed to do? Like I have so much on my plate. What if that mindset is more so, I'm the guy. I was put in this position for a reason. And somewhere within me is the strength to be able to step up to the plate and do this well and to decide what I want to go all in on and to
Mm.
decide what is less important and to lean on God for strength to do those things. And so
Mm.
I think that's an important first step is just to say, I'm not going to be an observer of this or a victim of this. I'm going to step into the place that is required for me to lead. And leading doesn't mean going around hitting everyone on the head with a hammer. Leading means like it's described as laying down your life, right?
Mm.
And that means like I am going to serve these people in my life. I'm going to be present with them. I'm going to step up and pray for them. I'm going to make sure that I'm not wasting my time on things that are just not helpful for my family. I'm not going to allow these certain things into my home. I'm going to make sure we do these certain things as a family because I know that adds to just the overall culture of our family. So
Mm.
I think it requires that mindset shift of going from passivity to intentionality and saying I'm stepping into this role. Not that I have it all figured out, but I'm in. Like I'm committed to growing and stepping into that position. And when you do that, that comes with a bunch of challenges to face. I do know that
Yeah.
if you don't carve out time to ask yourself these questions, like you mentioned before, it won't happen naturally. And so I think that's why the morning is a popular place for fathers in this position
Mm.
to carve out that time when maybe everyone is sleeping. Hopefully, sometimes kids are up in the middle of the night, as you know, but at least to aim to create some space so you can even lead well. Because if
Mm.
you're tripping right into that world, you're going to feel like a victim and you're going to feel like an observer. So, this is why we talk about leading yourself well. In the group that we're in together, you're not going to have a whole lot to give to your marriage or your kids or your profession if you're starting from a place of lack yourself. If you're, like I said, tripping into the day versus coming from a place of strength. And that starts with drawing your strength from the Lord first thing in the morning.
Mm.
If you're not doing that, you're floundering and you don't have a chance, honestly. So I think that's why prioritizing yourself and how you draw where you get your strength from so you can stand on your own 2 feet and lead from a place of strength rather from a place of being scattered.
Mm.
Kind of a long answer to this question of how do you prioritize time, but it isn't such a simple answer when you have all these major crucial responsibilities as a husband, father, and a professional.
But that's real talk, right? I mean, you can an answer, you can put it out there, but sometimes the things of life just require a lot more um, depth, And so when you have conversations like this, it really helps draw that out. Now, one of the things that you mentioned was intentionality. It took me a long time to really even start grasping what does it mean to have an intentional life, instead of stumbling through and just letting things happen. How did you get to a place? How did you learn to to make an intentional life yours? Like, how did you get to that place?
Probably from frustration of living a not an intentional life.
Mm.
Because what happens when you don't, other priorities will come in and take you in multiple directions, whether that's an employer. Sometimes it's people close to us. Sometimes it's family members or friends will influence you to go in different directions.
Mm.
And usually that's not going to be where you were meant to be or meant to go. So I think I just felt frustrated by being pulled in different directions that were not of my choosing because I was going with the flow and not leading my own life. I think after a while, I just got frustrated with that and said,
Mm.
I gotta take control here. This is at the end of the day, this is my life. I want to hear those words at the end of my life. Well done, good
Mm.
and faithful servant. So what do I need to do today to start chipping away at that mission? And I think that's what started it. And again, not a smooth path. It's pretty challenging to change your direction when you're used to kind of getting tossed like the waves of the sea back and
Yeah.
forth, and then you're all of a sudden going to start leading your own life. Yeah, that's a big shift, and it comes with a heavy responsibility. But that's a good thing because when that responsibility fully squarely falls on your shoulders.
Mm,
You have the agency to make an impact and to change it and to make a difference.
mm. So what really helped carve that out for you? Like what path did you take to learn that? I mean, you're talking about the real life examples there, but was there any one person, or did you have mentors? Did you learn it through school? Like how did you learn intentionality as you were growing into, the man that you are today? What was your biggest influence?
Yeah, it was a stopping of an influence that I used to have,
Mm,
which was, you know, life, certain types of friends,
mm,
traditional education. Those are sort of the influences that were such a part of my life all up into my young adulthood. And that shifted. My education, Adam, really started after I was done with college. That's when I really started reading books that helped shape my mind and helped me realize that there's a whole nother way of thinking. And then it was a tragedy that I experienced as well that really led me in that direction, that kind of shocked me and jolted me. So after college, I felt pretty lost, pretty just kind of, what am I going to do now? I have a degree, which really doesn't translate into any specific career. So I got a job framing houses, carpentry. And during that job, a friend I was working with stepped off of a second floor into the stairwell and was killed in the basement.
mm,
And so, being kind of at that time in my life, being super unsure of myself, had a lot of anxiety going on, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of low self confidence, just felt pretty lost in general.
mm,
And here I am seeing this tragedy unfold in front of my eyes and running downstairs to try to save him, give him CPR. It was one of the most traumatic experiences I had ever been through. And I remember later, my boss and I went to the hospital where he had been taken, and there's his whole family was waiting there, and they were just distraught, as you can imagine. And his mother, this guy that was killed, was crawling on the ground, crying and weeping, asking me, "Hey, what happened to my son? What happened to my son?" And I couldn't. I had zero words, as you can imagine. I couldn't say
yeah.
anything. I didn't know what to say. But that experience really rocked me, like to the core, shook me. And one of the things that had happened through that is I had this awareness of how brief life is and of how fragile it is.
Mm,
And that this kid who was 23 years old had a great future in front of him, star high school quarterback, interviewing for the Secret Service, just kind of filling in with this job on the side. Over that whole thing, all his dreams, everything he wanted to do, gone.
mm,
And shortly after that, I was on vacation with my parents and, well, with my family, and we're out in the ocean having a good time, boogie boarding. I'm trying to forget about this whole experience, get away from it all. And then I realized the undertow, which we don't know much about here in Western New York, uh, was pretty strong and started pulling me back out into the ocean. And so I started to get a little concerned because I was a pretty decent swimmer, but I was having a real hard time getting back in.
mm,
And when I finally did get back into the shore, I looked back out into the ocean, and two family friends that we were on vacation with were way out in the ocean, waving for help, barely keeping their heads above the water. Now, just to give you an idea, my first thought here, Adam, is I need to go find someone who can help because I can't help. And my level of confidence, my level of courage right then was just non existent. This is how I think God used this story. So, for some reason, in my mind, I'm right back in that hospital room with the parents of that kid who died saying, "What happened to my son?" And what became clear to me is that I might have to repeat that same conversation
mm,
with these two girls' parents. And I've known them my whole life, and we're super close. I'd rather die than have to do that again. That was the worst experience of my entire life. And so, in an effort to avoid that feeling again, I chose to jump in the water. This was not, there was not an ounce of courage in me, Adam. Let me be very clear. This was not courageous in any way possible. It was the less severe option in my mind to jump in the water. But for some reason, I guess when you think you're going to die anyway, just might as well swim as far as you can, right?
Mm.
And when you're going out with the riptide, it's a lot quicker because it kind of shoots you out there. So anyway, I swam, just kept swimming, and with the idea that, well, if I drown, it would be better. And you know what? I kind of feel lost in life anyway, dealing with a lot of anxiety and pain, and just in general feeling lost in my life. It wouldn't be so bad if it ended right here.
Mm.
That's frankly what was going through my head. And the crazy thing is I just kept getting closer to these girls that were out there, and before I know it, I'm right in front of them. I'm like, all right, well, now I gotta try to get back in if I made it all the way out here. And so God was with me. I mean, I don't know how this happened, but I looked at them and said, listen, we're not going to die today. We're going back into the shore. Keep swimming and stay with me, and don't give up. Hold on to my shoulders. And probably the worst advice ever to tell somebody to hold on to your shoulders when you're trying to swim. But I don't know how this worked, Adam, but we all made it back in alive. And I think that was the major moment where I first felt God say something to me that I had never heard my whole life. And it wasn't a big, clear voice in my head. It was more like a little whisper that said, there's something in you that you have to offer.
Mm.
You have courage, you have strength that I want you to offer to the world. And I mean, my whole messaging up to that point, Adam, was you're a loser, you're a coward, you don't know what you want to do with your life. Like all that stuff was dancing around in my head for years before this. So to hear that for the first time was just like,
Mm.
whoa, really? Like I might have something important to do. I might matter. I might have something to give here. And that started a shift for me to thinking, okay, life is super short. I have no guarantees. Like those two experiences were like, all right, I could be taken out tomorrow. I better get to it and figure out what it is for me.
Mm.
And that took a long time, man. I tried a lot of different things. A lot of different jobs, a lot of different directions, a lot of floundering and struggling, and but I did a lot of reading and learning during that time too, and seeing what's out there. And eventually I met this guy, Dan Miller, who I've talked about before. And he talked about this industry of coaching and how you can help other people come alive and find their direction in life and find their purpose in life. And you can get paid well to do that. And I thought, my goodness,
Mm.
that's what I want to do. And that was after about 10 years of floundering that I landed on that. And I heard him say that on a podcast, listening while I was working construction, and drove down to Franklin, Tennessee, where he was, went to his conference, learned about coaching, signed up for his coaching certification program. And I was all in at that point. And that started a whole nother journey of struggle and challenge. But that's how it all got started. And that's how that idea of being intentional with my life was really cemented during that experience.
Wow. That's a powerful journey. And what a witness to be able to share that. I can imagine other young men sitting wherever they're sitting right now and saying, I'm kind of floundering. I run into that a lot in the ministry side where I see a lot of guys who are just trying to figure life out. They're lost, they're stuck, they don't know what they're going to be doing with the next phase of their life. They don't know what they're doing in that phase of life. And I found myself in that place too, of just saying, what do you want me to do with my life? Like that was the intention of my prayer for a long time, and I was stuck in that spot of, Lord, I don't feel like I'm hearing you clearly here. I keep asking the same question over again. Well, Lord, what do you want me to do with my life? And then I hear nothing. It's like, all right, well, I guess I need to keep doing what I'm doing. I eat some more gravel. I'm like, Lord, what do you want me to do? And it became really clear that he was trying to get me to go all in. And there was things that I was putting on the sideline, because I was really torn between a particular call in my life of the priesthood or of marriage. And I'm like, Lord, if you just give me the small little thing of marriage in my life, I'll give you everything. And it was a very transactionary type of a deal with God. Like, if I give you this, you give me this, right? And that's how this is going to work, Lord. Like, let me tell you about
Making
my life.
deals.
There's no making deals with God.
No.
You got to be all in. And there was this moment when I was on a beach, and I used to do this often, where I would just go down to Woodlawn Beach here down on Lake Erie, and just I'd go throw rocks. I'd put a little prayer time in after work, a shift, and I would just go down and just have it out with God. And so I finally got to this place where I had to relent. I had to put up the white flag. And I was down there, and I threw my last rock, and I said, all right, fine. Lord, if what you're asking of me is just to be a priest, then I'll do that. But if you're actually putting something else in my life here that I just need surrendered, then I'm going to go all in right now. So whatever it is that you have in store for me, it's yours. So give me an answer. I'm waiting. And very quickly after that, my wife comes into the picture, and it was one of those moments where I'm like I know I should have done this sooner, but dumb me is sitting there just sticking my feet into the sand and saying, I'm not moving. You move first, right? But he was there the whole time. I had to be the one to move. And then I started getting a lot more clarity once I had figured out what's the direction that I'm heading. But what an amazing moment to be able to share of God's work in your life, right? That's a great thing. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to do with this podcast and with Righteous Co, is to really line up that answer that's on everybody's heart. What is it that God is asking you to do? What are you made for? And everybody has their own answer to that. How do you lead people to that answer? You're a coach, you're a mentor, you're a leader. I mean, you probably have a lot of different aspects of answering that question, but how do you approach it?
I love this question because it's such a hard question for so many people. And I've heard Andy Andrews say the quality of your answers depends on the quality of your questions.
Mm.
And sometimes I think that's the wrong question to ask, because how concerned is God about the thing that you're supposed to do? I don't know if that carries as much weight as who you're becoming.
Mm.
I feel like if people focused more on who they were becoming than the thing, then they would have the thing and another way of living out who they are in multiple different arenas. So it's somewhat pervasive idea from our culture too, is, hey, if you just figure out your passion, then the money will follow and everything will fall into place. I don't think that's true at all, honestly. I think we like you said, you put up your white flag and you open yourself up to what God wants to do in your life, and how he wants to grow you, how he wants to change you. how he wants to develop your soul, which is really what's happening through all these things in life. And here we are asking about what's that one job or what's that one career that if I could just find it, I could be everything I could be. No, 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 no. That job does not make you who you are. You become the person that can step into that. So focus more on that. Focus on who you know you need to be and become. And then those opportunities will be numerous. And you can just, depending on the season of your life, explore different opportunities or maybe stay with the same one and evolve in that same one. It almost doesn't matter. So I try to steer people away from that expectation that
Mm.
if I find the thing, then I'll be complete.
Mhm.
It's not true. You are a work in progress. I'm a work in progress. So submit to that work, do that work, and those opportunities will come up and there'll be multiple representations of what that opportunity is. So that's what I would ask more is
Mm.
how are you being called to grow right now in this season?
And you're a coach. You're asking the good questions. So, all right, let me ask you this. This season of life, what are some of the highs and lows that you find yourself wrestling with or celebrating?
Hmm. They all are so closely connected, right? Because the things that
Mm.
we really care about tend to have a good measure of both.
Mm.
My I love the age that my kids are right now. It's just really fun. We can have full conversations and we can play games together and they know how to play the games and we can be competitive. We can make memories together. We can all go bowling. We can do things together. So I'm thoroughly enjoying all of that. But as we talked about before, there's a tension there too because I have some big plans and missions to live out who I am. Not that the thing is going to make me, but I'm becoming someone who wants to lead other men into being more intentional too. So the real challenge with that is what we talked about before is where do I draw the line there? And what does that
Mm.
look like? And it's not such a clear line. So I think that's probably the low of it is knowing that something is always suffering. Either the business and the mission is suffering because I'm with my family, or the the family suffering because I'm putting too much time into the business. So I know that's sounds a little bit grim, but just being super open about the high and low of that tension, that's where most of it lies for me.
Mm. I feel like that's always a shifting sand too, right? So if you find yourself putting the attention into trying to fix one aspect, something slipping on the other. At least I find that for myself. If I'm pivoting to try to spend a little more time at the home front because Ani needs me here, and if it's a difficult season where the kids are sick, okay, I can spend a little time. But then I almost have this guilt where I'm like, oh, boy, I'm not putting as many hours as I think I probably should be. I'm going to repivot back to work because there's things that need to be over there. And then I find myself in the work zone and I got to look back over here at family again and find myself always doing that. Do you find that for yourself, or do you find that maybe it's a little bit easier once you get a better rhythm as I don't know,
Yeah,
you
it does
settle
get
into it?
easier. It does get easier. You're in a really tough season of life. It was for me when the kids are little. They just have the boundaries are harder to make when they have a lot more physical needs. Now there's other challenges that come later for sure. But yeah, that tension is still there for sure. But man, I've gotten a lot of good mentorship on this
Mm.
dynamic. And one of my mentors said, um, you can go into financial debt. You can delay financial success. You can't go into relational debt and then repay that later in terms of your family.
Mm.
So if I am going to let something suffer more for my values and for my perspective, it's always going to be the financial side, the business side. Not everybody agrees with me. They don't have to. It's not the only right way to think about it, but for me, that's how I view it, and it helps bring peace when maybe the business isn't where I want it to be,
Mm,
because I've already made that decision that I'm not going to drop the ball with my marriage. I'm not going to drop the ball with my family, because I can't go back later and say, "Hey, sorry about that decade that I was missing. I was providing for you guys, and
right.
check out all these nice things we have now." And they're like, "What's your name? Who are you?" Like, you can't
Right.
just come back and fix that. Now,
Mm-mm.
financially, yeah, you may not have your investments where you want them to be. You may not be super wealthy, but you can always make money. There's always ways to make money. You can start a new business and start generating money in as little as 3 years. You can make that happen. You can always get a job. There's always opportunities out there. So you can pick that back up when you need to.
Mhm,
So if those two things are at war, man, my family's not going to lose that war. Like,
mhm,
they're going to get what I have, and the business can suffer a little bit. And I'd do it again that way for sure, because there were some times where we were white knuckling it, wondering where, how our bills are going to get paid, wondering if, like, maybe not going to the grocery store this week, that type of thing. And so I'm glad, because now when we're with our kids, we want to be together. Like, we actually
mm.
enjoy time together because of that investment and because we spent so much of that time together. So I don't know. I hope that shed some light on the subject.
Yeah, for sure. Now, your wife Lydia and you're raising your kids. How do you make that work with her in the midst of this? Like, how do you communicate with her? How do you get all of your hopes and dreams kind of aligned with hers? If they do align, I'm sure that there's certainly things you probably disagree with, but how do you make that aspect of all of the McGreevy household work?
Yeah, I think sometimes guys who are well intentioned will plan a big knockdown drag out to have the dream conversation.
Mm.
And that's pretty overwhelming for anyone, especially our wives. I mean, like, we have a lot on their plate, they sure do too. And then you added, unique dynamics from a woman's perspective, and they're in a very challenging season of life too sometimes.
Mm.
So what has been helpful for us is not to look at it as these big, huge conversations that we're going to have about our dreams, and to have an open, continuous conversation about it going on. But we've also decided that every morning we're going to have coffee together. No matter what, we do that. And sometimes we're not talking about anything super groundbreaking. Sometimes it's a little bit of weather and, hey, how you doing? What's going on today? And other times it's hey, what do you think? Is this the place for us? Like, should we be here for the next
Mhm.
5 years? What do you think about schooling? What do you think about taking a trip in an RV for a year with our family? So that's where those conversations happen. If we don't have
Mm.
those scheduled times where we've decided we're going to do this, then those conversations don't happen. So you gotta create the time first and create the rhythm of having that continuous conversation, and then you can start deepening your conversations more and more.
Mm. Yeah, I love that idea because I feel like I could probably use that here in the house because our mornings are just bananas. It's like we get up. I try to beat the clock, but by the time the kids are up, Ani's up, everyone's running this way and that, and maybe at the end of the day, we finally get to sit back down and we're wiped. And by that time, there's no more energy of let's connect on the conversation side. So there's been so many of those days where we sit down and we're just wiped. So you want to throw something on? All right. And so then Boy Meets World comes on or something. and and so it's I like that morning piece because there's so much victory into the morning. And I've been trying to reclaim mornings personally. So, getting up early, going to the gym or, sitting down and making the writing time. But I have not put that in to the perspective of maybe I need to reclaim the mornings with my wife. Let's get these kids organized here a little bit and have a little space to, while we have energy. We both like coffee, so
Yeah.
might be something I can adopt here. And for those of you at home, maybe you need a little coffee with your wife or husband.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be perfect either. I mean,
No.
I get it. The mornings can be pretty chaotic, and just to pull it off and get everybody where they need to go at the right time that's a real challenge. So there are seasons for this kind of thing too. I think we're in a
Right.
little bit of a sweeter season where we have a little bit more time to do that. But for somebody who's like in a season where you are, Adam, where kids are little and they have just a lot of needs. You're changing diapers, you're like cleaning things up. They knock every single cup over. They just do it. Right?
Katiri's all hands right now, so everything has to go on the ground. And she just broke my favorite mug the other day.
Ah,
All right, it's a mug, but
yeah.
sometimes it's the small things where you're just like, but it was my favorite mug.
Yeah.
Kid, there's 100 mugs in there. You had to get it.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, it goes down on the ground. Little hands.
Yeah. Totally. Yep. I remember that. And sometimes it looks different during times like that where you're saying, all right, if we get an hour in a 2-week span where we can have a meal uninterrupted, that's amazing. Like maybe that's where you are. That's okay, but as long as you're being intentional about continuing that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, this has been great so far. I want to be respectful of your time, so I'm gonna maybe just ask you one more question here about just what it is that you're doing in life. Like, what is your hopes on that doing side? Because you're working on a pretty awesome vision right now with the Forge, and maybe you can share a little bit about what your hopes and dreams are with it, and what are you looking to do? Like, what's the vision for that, and how can people follow along?
Yeah, I don't claim to have any of this figured out. Fatherhood, marriage, I'm learning. I feel like there's so much to learn for me. So I'm not coming at this by thinking that I am an expert in these areas of life by any means. But what I have seen that when a father moves from that place, a husband and a father moves from that place of passivity to intentionality and says, I am responsible for what happens in this house. I'm responsible for the well-being of my wife and my kids and their direction. When a man does that, the earth shakes in
Mm,
that little area, in that little household, the earth shakes. And so my mission is to get as many households rumbling a little bit by the man,
mm,
changing directions from that place of passivity to intentionality.
mm,
And I hold this vision loosely, Adam. I don't know what it's going to become, but I feel compelled to help wake men up to that fact that they have that choice. They don't have to have it all figured out or to have the perfect system or to be completely exhausted and at the end of their life in order to make it happen. You just have to start there and say, I'm in. And being all in means you're all in. You're going to pursue your wife. You're going to listen to her. You're going to spend time with her. You're going to treat her like the most important person in your life. You're going to
mm,
be present with your kids. You're not going to farm out their development to a daycare, to a school, to some program. No, that's on you. I am responsible. I might get some help from people around me, but I'm responsible for that.
mm,
And if I am a man of faith and I have integrity, I'm going to bring that to where I go, my workplace. Like I'm not going to hide and say, oh, I'm a Christian, so I'm just going to keep things quiet.
yep.
No, I'm going to boldly lead with integrity. It doesn't mean beating people over the head with the Bible or saying you need to become a Christian or I can't talk to you. That's not what I'm talking about at all. I mean, being excellent with how you do your work, doing the right thing,
Mm,
having high integrity. And so that's what this mission is all about. And I think that's done through community. Resources are everywhere. There's information everywhere. You can buy a book, you can watch a free YouTube video. But the way that this starts to happen and catch fire is
mm,
when men band together and do it together. And you've seen that, Adam. Like, we are doing this thing together and holding each other accountable. And the things that are happening in our lives as a result just would not be happening if we were trying to do that in isolation on our own. It's inspiring to see somebody else have a win, face a challenge, and then have people gather around him, and then they rise to that challenge. I mean, that's what we want to create. And I'd love to see this happen all over the world. I don't know what God's going to do with it, but I'm saying yes to it where it stands now and saying, hey, I'm in. Whatever you want to do, I'm in.
You got me fired up. I'm sitting here like, oh God, this needs to be the pitch, you know? Uh, but you know, I love that passion and in that mission for serving men, because yeah, I've seen that a lot in ministry, and that's what has kind of driven me into this realm with Righteous Co. of just seeing so many young men, in particular young men, that feel deflated, like they're not really up and going. That shaking of the earth that you're talking about, wow, that is powerful when you see men up and at it, you know, when they're living out ways that they're supposed to be. They're making a change, impacting their families. Wow, that gets me fired up. So what you're talking about with the Forge, it's a community. And so how can somebody access this? Like, what does that look like? I know that there's a Facebook page now that is onboarding members, but there's so much more than just a Facebook page. There's a lot more to it. But can you share a little bit about what you guys are offering with that, and how somebody could get really charged up and engaged with this?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited. We're fully launching this later next month, which would be late April 2023, depending on when this lands. But if you go to the forgealliance.com, you'll see all the different offerings we have there. And there's 3 main offerings that we're starting with. In order to create communities, we're going to have other groups available, like the one you and I are in, Adam, where there's 10 to 12 guys who are all doing this thing together. That means intentionally focusing on their marriages, being better fathers, and growing in their businesses as well. So that's going to be one option. Those are called masterminds. Those meet a couple times a month, and it's really your own personal board of advisors for your life and for your business. And so that's one offering. And the other one is a little bit less. If you're not ready to dive into something like that this is an online community where you'll still have interaction with a bunch of other guys that believe in this mission, and you'll have a library of resources around those different areas of life to access. And also we'll bring in a speaker once a month that's an expert in one of these 3 to 4 areas that we're focusing on too. And I say 4 areas because leading yourself is necessary in order to be a good father, be a good husband, and to grow as a businessman as well. So that's why there's 4 different areas. And then one that I'm super excited about, that's a little bit of a higher end offering, is called the Travel Tribe. And the Travel Tribe, which I'm super pumped about, we're going to have a community of high level businessmen that take 2 trips per year. One's going to be international and one's going to be domestic. But it's not going to be like sitting on your butt on a lawn chair on the beach. We're going to be going on adventures.
Oh,
like we did something recently, not too long ago. We went to Cuba, which was completely off the grid, no cell service, no credit card use. So you show up with the cash in your hand, and the next 5 days or so, we had to chart our own path with a language barrier as well. So it's going to be doing life together on a monthly basis through some video calls, but then we'll go on trips together to go deeper and to continue to learn from each other. So those are the 3 ways to get involved right now, and we'll see how it goes.
I'm excited to see more of that, because I remember your trip to Cuba, and you guys had a podcast episode based on that, sharing some of the adventures. I mean, it sounded awesome.
Yeah.
So, hey, if you're following along on this, I really encourage you to check out Michael McGreevy's stuff here with the Forge. So that was forgealliance.com.
That's right. The Forge Alliance.
The Forge Alliance. I'm going to put a little script here too. So this way people can follow that link right along. But
Perfect.
you're also on Instagram. Where else can they find you? You're on Facebook too. The group is that an open invite? Not to just put this out here if that's close.
No, it's okay. We are looking for married fathers who are professionals. You don't have to own your own business, but you have to have a career, or at least be pursuing a career. That's who we're serving. And I'm pretty responsive. You can reach out to me personally anytime, on Facebook Messenger or wherever. I'm happy to respond.
Beautiful. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining today. This was a great conversation. We'll have to have you back for more adventures with Michael, because I know you've got a lot of great experiences under your belt. Just even as a storyteller, it's just fun to listen to. But I think that's probably a good wrap for today. So thanks for joining. And for those of you who are just tuning in, please subscribe. So this YouTube channel is brand new, and it's going to be fueled by your subs. So also make sure you hit the notification bell, so this way you can stay tuned for all the things that are going to be coming out of this channel. And you can also find us on Instagram as well. So thanks again, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care, Michael, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, well, hey, I hope you enjoyed that. What a great conversation. Like I said before, if you enjoyed this and you want some more, subscribe. Number 2, if this is a value for you and you think somebody else might appreciate this conversation, share it. Pass it along. Help me out. Send it out. Thanks for tuning in. My next interview is going to be with, actually, my brother. Now take a look at this. Right here is Ryan Jaros. That is my brother. He does amazing art and poetry that you can follow along with Rex Flex. He's going to be my next interview for this month. So you're going to want to be a part of that, because not only is he my brother, but he is super creative. That is a man who is dreaming and doing, and is going to help you do the same thing. So stay tuned for that one. That's what's coming up this month. So in the meantime, there's going to be some one-on-ones and other things as I flesh out the YouTube channel. But you can also follow along on Instagram at righteousco.com. No, at righteousco. And the website is righteousco.com. You can take a look there for ways to get involved, ways I can help you, coaching content and experiences. We've got a lineup: coaching for men, setting their priorities; coaching for leaders, helping you sharpen up and do the best that you can, get some clarity, and grab a direction for where it is that you're leading your people. The second part of that is the content piece. Obviously, here with the podcast, we're going to continue to grow and move with this. I have a book that is on the road to publishing right now, which is really exciting. If you liked this podcast, you're going to love the book, Iron Ore, The Journal of a Man, a 8-year look at my life as I was crafted and grown by God to be able to do some amazing things, which one of my favorite things is being a husband and a father. So you can see that vocational journey in this book. It's coming out. You're going to hear a lot more about that. And then also experiences like the Iron Ore Men's Retreat coming up this August. We're doing the highest mountain in New York, Mount Marcy. Actually, you can kind of, I don't have a great view of that. It's up there. I'm going to knock over this camera. There we go. We're heading up to the Adirondacks. Right up there. That's where we're going this summer. So, we're going to bring that down a little bit. There you go. So, it's going to be an amazing time. You probably saw some of the clips at the beginning here for that intro. But, men, we are getting out into the mountains. We're going to get some fresh air and get some clarity on what it is that the Lord is asking us to do in our life. And actually, this one's going to be pretty awesome because we're going to go deeper than we have before. So if you feel like you need to get alive and get some clarity in your mind and in your heart, come along. You can see the details online, righteousco.com. So that's that. episode 1 is in the books. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you soon.